that I'm in the program for like 5 months, I think I'm finally understanding it's not just about, getting committed to weight training and your nutrition. It's the mental stuff about changing your identity.
Yeah, let's dive into it then. Let's start off with just a quick introduction to yourself, what your name is, what you do for work, where you live, what your schedule is like. Just what's some
Yeah,
quick background on you?
yeah, sure. Yeah. So yeah, my name is Uttam Tambar. I'm a chemistry professor here in Dallas, Texas. And yeah, I love chemistry. I love doing research, and I feel like I've always work has always been a priority. Work and studies has always been a priority since I was young. And I think, I always had a certain level of comfort and confidence with my academics and my work. I didn't have the same level of confidence and security with my health. And so, I think that's something I always struggle with. And, before I joined this program, during COVID, I lost a lot of weight. I got into like weight training for the first time. This is in my, late 30s, early 40s. And I went from like 250 to 190. And it was through like working out and, trying to be healthy. I got a trainer who's great. And and then I gained it all back. I gained it all back, basically from the end of COVID until the beginning of this year. I gained most of it back, and then I saw your video. It was like a small thing, but in your video you talked about how you were like really committed to health, and then once you started working, like you saw the weight go on, and I just kind of that resonated with me. That like wow, even somebody who was confident with their health in college, even they were kind of susceptible to not being healthy at certain times in life. And so that really kind of resonated with me. And then I saw the other thing that I really liked early on when I was trying to figure out if to reach out to you. You had a YouTube video interviewing somebody, and the person, I forget his name, he said, this pro it's not easy, but it's simple if you follow this program. And that also really resonated with me, this idea that like I think a lot of us are really motivated to be healthy. And, we recognize it's not going to be easy, but, if there's like a structure we can work with, it just kind of gives us confidence. And so, I still remember when we talked the first time, you were like, when I told you my story about how I gained all this weight back, you were like, oh, yeah, that totally makes sense to me because you didn't work on your identity. And I had no idea what you were saying. Like when you first said that, I was like, what is he talking about? Because that was something I was like, it would really bug me for a long time. And I think now that I'm in the program for like 5 months, I think I'm finally understanding it's not just about, getting committed to weight training and your nutrition. It's the mental stuff about changing your identity. So I still remember that. I really appreciated you saying that. So
Wow, that's awesome. Thanks for giving that context too. There's so many things I want to pull on, but I guess just to kind of like set the frame, in the past 5.5 months, what are the results you've gotten from working with us, both physically and mentally?
yeah, yeah. So, maybe I'll give you another context to talk about the progress. So I think I joined the program in mid-March, if I'm not mistaken. And I still remember when I joined the program, I told you, well, I'm about to go on for travel for work. Maybe I'll in a week I'll join the program. And you said, well, why, what are you waiting for? And that also resonated with me because I realized like, this is not like some crash diet program. You're really trying to make us, change how we approach life, day-to-day life. So I remember I joined the program. I was on a Friday, I think, in March, and I was like really gung ho about the program for about a month, 3, 4 weeks, and then in April, so my father passed away in the middle of April, and he had been struggling with Parkinson's for like severely for like the last 10 years, and I still remember that like I went to New York where he was for a whole week just to kind of be with him that last week, and that week and 2 weeks after that, basically for 3 weeks, all the funeral ceremonies, I felt, so disconnected from this program, and I
Mhm.
felt so bad. Like I was like, man, there's so many things I should be doing, and I just couldn't, like emotionally I wasn't there. But I have to
Yeah.
say, you and Shalin were great. Like you guys, I never thanked you for this, but you guys sent me flowers during that time. That really meant a lot to me. And also, I think periodically you guys texted me and checked in on me. And I think, there was this notion that like I felt like I was a part of a community, even though I wasn't doing, all the things that I really felt like I wanted to do to be part of this program. And then I remember reaching out to Shalin 3 weeks into the program. I mean, 3 weeks into, after my dad had passed away, and I said, I really want to reconnect to the program. And he said, okay, so let's just get into it. What are the, you guys always begin with the wins. So he said, let's first talk about your wins for the last 3 weeks. And he said, for win number one, you just went through the toughest period of your life, and now you're coming back and you reached out to me. And that was I realized that like part of really figuring out this identity of being healthy is recognizing that even when the shit hits the fan and things are really tough, like how do you make sure that you still feel like you can be a healthy person. And then the other thing I noticed, you guys always say like there are all these levers you can pull, and we can talk more about that. But like there's the strength training, there's the proteins, making sure you get enough protein in your diet. And even though I wasn't working out, every day I was making sure I was trying to get as much protein as I could, even when I was in the hospital with my dad being sick. And I was also trying to like get my steps in. And
Mm.
so, I remember when my father passed away, I used to go like that week after he passed away, I used to go on walks, and it's weird. Like I used to have talks with him, even though he had passed away. On these walks, getting in my steps, I would have these like spiritual conversations with him. And I think it was the first time I was like, wow, like these walks, it's not just about getting steps in to be on the program. It's like it's time for myself.
Yeah.
And so then when I reconnected with Shalin, he's like, okay, so that's great. We've talked about your wins, and so what's holding you back now? And I said, I just feel like I can't get into workouts. I used to do these really great strength training workouts at the beginning of the program, and I just don't feel like I have the energy to do that. And he said, well, then let's just begin small. So we began with like a 15-minute resistance band workout, and then one thing led to the other. And then after that, Shalin started talking about momentum. He's like, now you have the momentum. Let's build on that. And I think when I went through that month, I realized that like, you know, at no point during that month when I was struggling with my dad's death did I think, okay, professionally, I'm going to stop being a professor. Like because I'm very confident about that. So I was like, that's part of my identity.
Wow.
Being a professor, successful professor is part of my identity. And no point did I think I'm not going to run my lab. Of course, it affected how much I interacted with the people in my lab, but I was really kind of secure about that. And I realized like that's what it means to me to say I want to be a healthy person. That even when life gets really tough, maybe I'm not pulling all the levers, but like I got to raise the floor. I got to what I do on a day-to-day basis, even when things aren't going well, I need to kind of stay true to who I am as someone who wants to be a healthy person. And then that makes it easier when times are getting better, then I can be locked in with all the things that I really want to do. And so, Shalin even said when I came back after working out, and being in the program again for like a month, he's like I'm in many ways, I think having that tough month is probably the thing that's going to help you sustain your health, because when life was at its most
Mm.
painful, you were still thinking about how to be healthy. You were still trying to do, get your protein, you're getting your macros, you're still trying to think. It was still part of who you were, and you were thinking about that. And I think that meant the world to me. And so now I think a lot about not just like making sure I'm on the program and getting my steps in, my proteins. And I think about like what would a healthy person do on this day when if it's a good day or bad day, what would a healthy person do this day? And I think just honestly, like one of the things that brought me back also was just the community. Like you guys have done a good job of creating a community where people openly talk about like the good and the bad. And so even though I wasn't coming to the weekly calls in real time, I would watch the videos, when I was kind of struggling dealing with my dad. And I think, that community, it's tough to maybe articulate how important that is for those of us who are kind of trying to figure out how to be healthy people. But I think for me, that's been a real powerful thing to be part of that community. So
Wow. Wow. That's just absolutely incredible. I'm first of all, I'm just so proud of you for
thank you.
how you've taken like literally one of the most challenging things that can happen in a person's life, losing a parent, and have just spun that and just been so resilient from that experience. Like I know your dad's proud looking at you,
Thank
you
you.
know?
Yeah.
So what do you think led to that resilience? Like how did you find the resilience in you to keep going and even to like reach out, you know? Because that can be hard in that moment. Like walk me through that thought process.
Yeah, I mean, I think when you guys have the Sunday call-in the meetings, sometimes it's talking, about, things that seem directly related to our health. Like, this is, proper form when you work out, or this is, suggestions for healthy food options. but some of it is a lot of it is like mindset stuff. And I think it was the mindset discussions that we had. It just made me. It was for the first time that I started thinking about my approach and my identity and my mindset towards my health in the same way that I saw it in my professional life. And it's like I feel like all of us have elements of our life that we're really confident about. It could be our work. It could be like some people I know are just really social. You could put them in a room, they'll talk to anybody. Some people are really good about making sure they make time for themselves, for their mental health. And uh, and I feel like if we can take some of those things that we probably already do, intuitively in those confident parts of our life, and then start applying it to some of the parts of our life that we're not so confident and secure, then I think we can get that same strength in all those other parts of life. And I think it's through a lot of these mindset and identity topics that you guys discussed. It was the first time that I started making those connections. I think that definitely helped. And yeah, just honestly, like just hearing other people's stories, like I've never met any of these people, right, that are on the
Yeah.
call, right? But like I know Paul has like 60 days in a row of 10,000 steps, and I know Lucas is like bench pressing something in the 200s, and Marianne knows the most healthy things to eat. And for me, like when you see other people expressing things, showing signs of strength with their health, yeah, I don't know, it just motivates you because it's not, these are just normal people who are in this program for the same reason that I am. So I think that gave me a lot of strength.
Mhm.
So,
Wow, I love that. Yeah, it's the power of like, it's like that quote, right? Like a rising tide lifts all boats.
yeah,
When
yeah, right,
everybody around us is like all wanting to better themselves,
yeah,
it's infectious, that energy.
yeah,
I
yeah,
love
that's
that.
right. Yeah,
That's so awesome. Yeah,
yeah.
that honestly, that's been one of my favorite parts as a coach to watch grow is the community. And it's
Right.
just like so incredibly beautiful.
Right,
You know?
right. Yeah.
Yeah,
No, I love that. I
that's
love that.
awesome.
Yeah, yeah.
What what is your family or friend group or colleagues, just like the people you interact with on a day-to-day basis, what do they think about all this?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, just maybe go back to your first question about like the progress I made. So since the beginning of March, I think I've lost close to 20 pounds, and I think it goes beyond just the pounds. Like I feel like I can feel the difference in terms of my ability to fit in clothes, and my belt size. There's shirts that I've been wearing the last few weeks, which I hadn't worn for a long time. So I noticed that I feel stronger also. That's the other thing. I feel when I do strength training, it's not like I'm starving myself, because you guys preach the importance of, not just starving ourselves, really thinking about the nutrition. So when I work out now, I begin my morning by eating rice cakes because you said rice cakes are best carbs before workout, and I was like, man, this is great. And so little things like that. So I went to a work conference a few weeks ago, and some guy was like, "Wow, man, you looks like you lost weight." And I was like, "Wow, I didn't even realize I lost weight." But I think it was more just like the body composition changing. So that's obviously nice to hear. But then the other thing is, I think my one of the most beautiful things was last week or maybe 2 weeks ago, right before my kid's school started. I've been all summer. I've been trying to convince my son to work out with me. He's in high school, and the last week before school started, he's like, "Hey, Papa, I'll come and work out with you," and it meant so much that he worked out with me. At the end of that week, he was like, "Wow, Papa, I think working out is actually really fun. I really enjoyed working out." And then I realized that like, if by me kind of redefining my identity, I can give my kids a chance of having this identity from an early age. Like, what
Mhm.
could be more amazing than that, and so I think that was nice, and then also I remember a couple of weekends ago I went to the mall with my daughter, and she wanted some ice cream, and she looked at me, she's like, you're not gonna have ice cream? I said, no, I'm not gonna have ice cream because I kind of had a big lunch before, and I just I don't want to have ice cream. And she's like, wow, Papa, why are you being such a buzzkill? And I told her, I said, I'm not being a buzzkill, I just I'm like, I didn't have the most healthy lunch, and I'm not gonna have ice cream now, and that's okay. And I felt like just normalizing that for my kids, honestly, that's probably more like as important as like me just being healthy for myself, So
Mhm. Wow, that's so powerful.
yeah,
Literally carrying it forward to the next generation, starting the habits young.
yeah, right, right.
Really, really cool. What would you say? Oh, it looks like you froze for a sec. Can you still hear me?
Oh yeah, I can hear you now.
Oh,
Yep, yep, yep. I think
oh,
it's
there we go. It froze. Okay. We're back.
yeah, yeah.
What do you think if you had to like distill it down? Um, like what would be your biggest learnings, your biggest takeaways that you've had from this experience?
I think, one of the things you often say is like, it's not about willpower. I think, it's about creating the proper systems that allow you to do the things that that the future version of you would want you to do, right? I know you like that. I like that metaphor you have, but I think a lot of us who have struggled with our health, we feel like it's due to a weakness of our own. Like we lack willpower, we lack discipline. And I think one thing I've learned from this program is that it's not about that. Like we have the power to create the systems and then build the habits that will allow us to, kind of live the life that we want to live in terms of health and nutrition. And so, there are times like just like a couple of days ago, I had a hibachi chicken hibachi lunch, and they gave me like it felt like 2 cups of rice. I'm like, man, and I ate like most of it, and I realized, you know what, it's not that I'm weak or a bad human being. It's like if you put rice in front of me, I'm going to eat it, right? And so, it made me think, okay, the next time that happens, I should like just throw out half of the rice, like or ask the restaurant beforehand, like, can you just give me less rice? And so, a lot of this comes down to like creating the systems that put us in the best position to succeed. So I think that's probably the most important thing I've learned. It's like, we don't have to just count on our willpower because then it's like a vicious cycle. We make it difficult for ourselves to succeed, and then we feel bad about it, we feel guilty about it, and it's just kind of vicious cycle. But if we really focus on like creating the systems around us that make it easier for us to succeed, then yeah, then we will be able to do it. So
Wow. I love that. That reminds me actually just earlier today I was talking to Abby about the concept of like when we look at the systems, then we stop like shaming ourselves.
yeah,
Like it
yeah,
removes all the shame when you could
yeah,
just look objectively like, well, what things happened in my life that led me to do this behavior?
yeah,
So
yeah. No,
I
that's
love
right.
that.
Yeah,
That's really powerful. Yeah.
yeah,
Systems, as we always say, right? Systems beat willpower every day of the
yeah.
week.
Yeah, yeah, no, that's right. Yeah. And then,
Yeah.
the other thing you guys do, you always talk about like it's important to have data. First of all, I feel like, in my line of work, I mean, it's all about data as a scientist. And, you guys, there's a lot of data that goes into seeing if we're making progress on our health journeys. It's not just about the weight. So even the pictures that we take, the profile pictures, it's like, I look at those profile pictures and I'm all the time, a lot of times I'm like, I don't see anything changing. And then once Shaolin was like, listen, you don't see it, but like look at your back. Like, it's like your back is more formed. I'm like, oh my God, I didn't even look at your arms. And it kind of changed the way I thought about that. But then also, I think you've often said this, like every time you do something where you feel like you created a system to improve a habit, it's a data point for you to like identify, to show that your identity is evolving. And for me, that's an important thing. It gives me momentum. It's like, okay, yeah, I didn't eat ice cream at the mall with my daughter, and it's okay. I was fine. I didn't feel like I was depriving myself, and she still loves me, It's okay, right? So I think that yeah, I think that was important. So yeah.
Yeah, that's powerful. And I love that thought process too of like, well, I had like that bigger, maybe less quote unquote like healthy lunch. And so like now as a result, yes, I won't have the ice cream tonight, but maybe tomorrow I could.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
having that long-term balance and sustainability is so huge.
Right.
What would you tell somebody who's in a position similar to where you were? Maybe they've, done something extreme, dropped some weight, but
Mm.
then they couldn't keep it off and they gained it back. Like, what would your feedback be to them?
I think I guess my feedback would be like, um if when you're ready to kind of re-engage with your health journey, you know, really think about what you're going to be with the work you're going to be doing to change your identity, like, how you really view this process. Because, when
Mm,
I think about it, when I got all the way down to 190, like I used to tell people, oh, I've kind of changed the way I eat. I've changed my diet. But I think inside I wasn't saying that to myself. I think inside I was saying like, I think I was kind of, without saying it, I was thinking, okay, how much longer am I going to have to live like this
Mm,
until I'm happy with my weight? And so I think what I would say to people is like really work on, changing your identity because you can, you can be a healthy person and view yourself as a healthy person at any weight. I think that was something I struggled with. Like the first time when, I was talking to you and Shalin about like the process of changing my identity, really thinking like a healthy person, not saying I want to be a healthy person, but I am a healthy person. I think a lot of it was like I had this like imposter complex, like, but I'm not a healthy person. Look at my weight. Look at how I look. How can I be a healthy person? And I think maybe I would tell somebody like if you really want to do this and sustain this, you have to decide like, okay, no, I am a healthy person. And what would a healthy person do at this stage in the journey? What is that healthy person going to do? And just kind of own that. And that's I think for a lot of us that's tough to do and say, with our insecurities or physical insecurities. But I think that's an important part of that process. So yeah,
yeah. Yeah. Wow. That's huge. I love that. What do you think is next? You've dropped 20 pounds, right?
yeah, yeah, yeah,
So you've lost some weight, still
yeah,
more. I'm sure you want to get a little bit more shredded, as we as we like to say in our group,
yeah, yeah.
right? So what's next for you? What do you kind of see next in your health and fitness journey?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like and I think maybe Lucas said this also. It's like or maybe he didn't say it, but I felt like he was giving those vibes. It's like I want to focus on the things I'm gaining and not what I'm losing. So I feel like if I focus on the things that I can gain, then the weight will come off, and it will naturally come off. But like, I have goals. Like I want to be able to bench press my body weight. I want to be able to do a pull up, So, those are some of the like goals I have, in terms of, so a lot of my goals I think are strength training, based. And then, I think I want to also like figure out how to like get my kids on on a similar commitment to healthy eating, so like if I can not only like cook for myself but like once in a while give them some of the food that I'm eating. I feel like that would those are the things I'm thinking about now, making them think about that, their health a little bit. But yeah, I think I feel I have this goal, like if I can bench my body weight, maybe I'll get a tattoo. That's my long-term goal.
Wow, nice.
Yeah,
What
we'll
you
see.
know what the tattoo's gonna be up?
No, that's the problem. Yeah, that's the problem. I feel. Yeah.
I love that. Bench
Yeah.
your body weight, get a tattoo. I
Yeah.
love it.
Yeah.
Love it. Awesome.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, there's one more thing I wanted to ask you about
Yeah.
because I remember maybe you can tell this story from your perspective too. Because I remember when we first had a call,
Yeah.
we got on the call, we go through the program, talk about it, all that. You're like, yeah, it sounds great. But then we hit a roadblock of fear, right? Remember,
Yeah.
we like talked about it, we identified it. You're like, okay, yeah, this is what I'm feeling. You talked to like, I think you talked to V Shred before, and you were like, oh, they were
Yeah.
like really pushy, and
Yeah.
all
Yeah.
these things. There are lots of fitness programs out there, right? Like,
Yeah.
I want to know what was going through your mind in that moment, and then also afterwards when you did decide to commit, just walk me through like what was going through your mind, what were you thinking, what were you feeling, and what got you to actually decide to, you know what, I am gonna take this plunge, I am gonna work with this guy I met on Instagram. Like,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. No, I mean the V shred, I don't want to crap on anybody, but that V shred experience was like so bad. Like, I was so eager to try to like, have like a long-term health journey. And
yeah,
the guy was like really pushy about like, you got to join now. If you don't join now, I won't be able to give you the special deal. And I was like, it's not about a special deal. Like it's really about being in the right mindset when I began working on this. And I think I just really liked your attitude about, like first you said, you know, when I said maybe I'll wait a few days until after my travel, you're like, but why not start now? He's like, when you travel, if you can begin this journey when you travel, just think about how much easier it'll be once you come back home. Like, you're going to be traveling at different stages of your life. Like, why not start now? And I really like that. It wasn't like you were saying like, if you don't join this program now, the offer is going to end. It was more like, what is, when you say you're ready, why not do that? But I think it was really when I said that, like, what I'm afraid of is failing. What I'm afraid of is like, I'm confident that I can lose the weight, but I'm really afraid that what if I in 6 months from now I put all the weight back on and
Mm.
it was like you were like so like immediately like, oh yeah, I know why that happened. It was like because you didn't work, you didn't change your identity, and it was just that like I realized this program was going to be more than just getting me to some weight so that you could take a picture of me and then put it on your Instagram page and like, hey, look at our success. It was really about like, okay, you say you want to sustain this, and I think I know why, you haven't been able to sustain it. I think it just gave me a sense of calm and comfort, like, wow, okay, I think this can be life-changing if I really kind of work on my identity. So yeah.
Mm. Wow, that's really powerful. I
Yeah.
love that. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, yeah.
Great. Well, we've covered a lot of ground here. Is there any other stories or any other takeaways or things that you just want to share with anyone who's listening and watching this video?
Well, I mean, first of all, yeah, it's been great being part of the community. I think, a couple of times I think, you guys have talked about like just the importance of being honest with ourselves. We all are on this journey for different reasons. And, I think once you even said like, what do you guys come up with a nickname for yourselves. Like, what would your nickname be if you're a healthy person? And, I think as I was thinking about, I want to be like Uttam the Rock Tambar. Like,
Ooh.
I like look at Dwayne the Rock Johnson, like, that guy, like, even when he shoots a movie, he like, he travels with his weights, and he's so committed to that. And I don't know, it just made me realize like, first of all, we can, be healthy in different circumstances. And as busy people who travel a lot, like we have to be willing to figure out how to be healthy in different circumstances. But then the other thing is be honest with yourself. Like, yeah, I'm sure, of course, I want my blood pressure to go down and be healthy, but I also want to look like a badass. I want to look good and feel good. And it's okay to say that. It's okay that you want to be healthy so that you look good. And I think just being honest with ourselves, it just makes it easier to then stay true to the journey. So I think that's something I tell people. Yeah, just be honest with yourself why you want to be healthy.
Wow. I love that. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah.
Great stuff. Well, amazing interview. Thank you for taking the time to sit down, share your story. If
Yeah, my
anyone wants to get in touch with you, what's the best way that they can reach you?
um probably my email, just it's Tambar at gmail.com. I got that real early when Gmail.
Nice. Yeah, wow.
Yeah, I'd be happy to talk to people about that. So yeah.
Okay, great. Well, thank you so much. This was awesome.
Yeah, thanks a lot, man. Yeah, thanks for arranging this. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, yeah.